lease negotiation strategy. What can you do so that your tenant can stay for long term? So whenever the lease negotiation particularly is happening, then you can get that renewal done properly. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of the tips that you can implement so that your tenancy can stay there for long term. So when the lease renewal times comes in, they can continue staying there. They will sign for another 3 years, another 5 years. What are those strategies? If you want to know, then stick around. Now, before we start, I would like to say, if this is the first time that you have joined to this channel, please subscribe to the channel. I regularly post about commercial property. There are various aspects of commercial property that you can learn through this channel. So by all means, do subscribe this channel and you will learn a lot. All right, let's start. Lease negotiation strategy. Now, whenever you buy a commercial property, as you know, you always try to buy a fully tenanted property, which means that the tenant is already in place. So you have done a significant due diligence and make sure that the property is well equipped to have all the strategies, and hence you have given that property to your tenant and they are actually in that lease. Now, let's say you have a lease of 3 years or 5 years time. Now, come these 3 years and 5 years, when the renewal come, what most people or the most investors they do, they just ask their asset manager or the property manager, hey, will they sign another 3 years or 5 years lease? And that's the strategy what I call is a passive strategy. Whereas what you can do is something called active strategy. So the strategy number one is that as soon as you buy that property, and assuming that it is a tenanted property, the first thing that you need to understand is that these tenants, what are they doing and why do you think that they are going to renew the lease? Because perhaps in the similar type of properties is not available in that area and the business that they are doing is very much tied up with that location. All these things you have already discovered in the due diligence, but you need to keep looking into it that, okay, is this the same even after 1 year, even after 2 years? Because as the lease is coming to an end, particularly roughly about 6 months, 1 year, you need to be really on top of it. So the first thing that you should be doing to understand the reason that you bought this property, is this the same reason, which is like the tenant is sticky and tenant is pretty much in a place where they just cannot move out. Because if that happens, then they're pretty much going to renew. So the strategy number one for me is to early negotiation. So do not leave it till the end and then you say that, okay, let's go for renewal. Do that early negotiation. If you can sense that, hey, there is a chance that they can move out, do the early negotiations. Because what happens is that if you do the early negotiation and if they are planning to move out, then for sure you will have more time to advertise and get a new tenant. But most of the cases, if they are even also thinking now that you are proactive, they might sign another 3 years or 5 years lease. So that's the strategy number one, is to do that early negotiation as early as possible. The second one that you need to look around, although your property, you need to continuously working with your property manager or the asset manager that what is happening with the market. And if the market says that, oh, there are plenty of vacant properties or similar type of properties that is coming in, then you might have to lower your rent to keep your tenant. So don't be afraid of, or don't be rigid like no, I will not reduce my rent. Because by reducing the rent, because of the market downturn, you still have tenanted property. Remember, no rent is not good. Some rent is always better than no rent. So as long as your property is tenanted, you are better off than the property becomes vacant. So the second strategy that you will be doing is you will be willing or prepared to reduce your rent if the market says so. To keep your existing tenant, you must do something to reduce or give some sort of tenant incentives so that they sign another 3 years or 5 years lease. Because remember, this is only for temporary. After 3 years, if the market comes up, then again you can do something and increase your rent as well. So this is the strategy number two, where you sometimes will be prepared to reduce your rent because the market says so. Don't be rigid. And the third strategy that I always talk about during the lease negotiation is what can you do that can help them to grow more business. So perhaps your tenant is struggling, they are not making as much money that they used to. So if they're not making money, perhaps because they need, depends on the what type of property it is, they need a cold room which used to work nicely but not working properly. Perhaps they need a better car parking area because there are more car that is coming. So whatever be the situation, depends on the property, you try to talk to these tenants and understand through your property manager, of course, to understand what is their need. And sometimes you might have to give an extensive tenant incentives. So yes, the lease is currently, let's say 3 years, and it is coming to an end. So in that second year or the third year, you will negotiate with them that, hey, if you sign a lease for another 5 years, I am willing to prepare, I am willing to pay this much money to you so that you can fix these things. Now this is another strategy, is kind of a tenant incentives. It's a strategy where it works both ways, because you do not want a vacant property. So because you do not want vacant property, you should be always willing to work with your tenant. Remember, if the tenant is making profitable, if the tenant is making money, then you will make money because they are going to pay rent. So your tenant is like your customer. So you need to treat them properly, because that's how they are going to stay there for long term, and that's how they are going to sign the longer lease, and that's how your property will continuously becoming 100% tenanted. I hope you got some strategy out of it, and if you like this video, consider subscribing our channel, turn the notification bell on so you get to see more videos like this, and it also helps us to reach out to more people like you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.